Hey there! Tired of spending forever seeding nursery trays by hand? Meet the Quick Click Drop Seeder. It makes seeding trays super fast. Just a click and you're done. You can seed multiple trays in no time, making your nursery work way easier. Plus, it works with paper pot trays, microgreens, and any other tray that you have. Say goodbye to tedious seeding and hello to more time on the farm. Join hundreds of other farmers and try the Quick Click Seeder today. Available at shop.moderngrower.co or using the link below.
A little bit of a side as I transition to this next question. You mentioned your time working in kitchens before, and I know that connected you to the restaurant industry. So you know what chefs want, you know how kitchens operate. That makes that an easier market to tap into. But I have to imagine that time working in kitchens taught you a lot about using space. Kitchens are often tight. I was a bartender in a previous life, and I feel when I transitioned into microgreens growers, there was a lot of transferable skills there about how you set things up to be ergonomic and quick, how you make use of limited space, how you use that vertical space. So I wonder if you can talk a little bit about that before I get into this. Do you feel that was an aspect of how you were able to make use of these spaces and evolve through these spaces from that experience?
Yeah, 100%. In any type of farming situation, labor is the biggest expense. And so the more efficiencies you can find, the more streamlined things are, whether that's with regards to the way you're using space or just your processes, that's going to be an asset. Definitely, I would say more so than focus on space, definitely a focus on working as efficiently as possible is something that has been baked in and is really a part of my thought process all the time. And now that we have several staff members, it's something that I encourage everyone to bring to mine and my farm manager's attention. If they see ways to improve efficiency, if they see ways to save us time or energy or whatever that is, we are always all ears. It's every footstep taken that you can save is money back in your pocket when it comes to labor expenses. Efficiency is the name of the game always.
Yeah, absolutely. So when thinking about, there's a point at which you need to start thinking about a new space. You need to start looking for that space. I've grown crops on a dozen different spaces over the span of my life now. So when I'm thinking about moving to a new growing or farm space, I have a particular set of things in mind. I have the ideal, what I can settle with, what I cannot settle with. When we're talking microgreens, we're usually talking from moving from one building to another. So there are these indoor facilities. And I'm not going to discount the experience we get from growing in different rooms in our houses, because that is valuable. But you move from those and you had some warehouse space, then you had to move into the next warehouse space. So doing that, and I know you're methodical, I wonder about what are the key things you were looking for in this new space? I know there's some obvious things, but what were things like, okay, if we're going to do this model, this is what the space needs to have specifically for us and our unique structure?
Yeah, the funny thing is, I had that moment that most people who are shopping for houses or their own personal living spaces have, where you need to have that moment of walking into a space and just instantly having that feeling of, yes, that this is it. When I did finally have that after a fairly exhaustive search, I was looking for a concrete shoebox. Like I was looking for just a big angular space. And there's two parts of that. One is the ceiling height. I wanted a generous ceiling height to achieve the verticality that I wanted. And the other was just a long straight shot, again, to accommodate a system that's in line. And this has to do with plumbing when it comes to adding automation, automated watering, which is something that we introduced in this iteration of the farm. Those were the major factors. Other little things like storage space. I wanted to have an office space or a break room and an overhead door. Those were the major factors. That was about it, though. Location, I just wanted it within the city limits. But yeah, those were the major factors physically about the space.
And were you hoping to find something that had pretty much all the HVAC, plumbing, electrical you need, or were you willing to do that investment to get what you needed?
I knew it was going to take some investment to get a space to where I needed it to be. There aren't really, it would be nearly impossible to find a space that was already set up for indoor vertical farming. Maybe HVAC. This place didn't have it. I'm sure I could have found a place that did. That wasn't a make or break for me. I actually didn't even install HVAC at the outset. The previous tenant was making chocolate covered almonds, and I figured if they're doing chocolate in the summer in Ontario and they don't have HVAC, then probably we'll be okay. Not taking into account how hot the summers are getting and the fact that our lights generate heat, etc. I did have to bite the bullet, and luckily, just before the big heat waves here, we completed the installation of the HVAC system. But we had to do a few other things. I wanted to install a powerful inline fan for exhaust to pull air through. So again, if you imagine, we're in like a long rectangular box. So we have louvers set into the window in the front of the building that are wired in series with our exhaust fan. So when the exhaust fan turns on, and that's triggered by a temperature and humidity sensor, when the fan turns on, the louvers open, so we're drawing fresh air right through the space. That we had to get a building permit to bash a hole through the back wall to put that in. We had to get a building permit so that we had to drill up some of the concrete flooring because we had to put in a floor drain for the plumbing for the system. So there were a bunch of projects that needed to happen to get the space to be ready. They weren't, I don't want to say that they weren't significant, but the cost of the racking and flood tables and other big pieces of equipment were far more expensive than any of the construction work that had to happen.
Right. How do you heat that space? And there's a lot of options in warehouse spaces. Some of them are great if you're a mechanic working on things, but there's a certain way, many certain ways you might want to heat the space for your crops. I wonder about how you're doing that.
So we took possession May of last year. We weren't able to start growing until September. So that's how long it took us to do the build out. We also had to be out of our old space by the end of September. So that was like a drop dead date. But I thought that was enough of a runway to get it all done. And it was still down to the wire on some things. So let that be a lesson to anybody considering this size and type of a move. It's always going to take longer than you think, even when you give yourself 5 months. Sorry, what was I?
Heating.
Heating, yes. So there was an existing block heater, a ceiling mounted natural gas heater that was in place when we took over the space. So we have since, in doing the HVAC install that we did, we intentionally oversized it. So that heater was removed, and we instead have 2 furnaces that are connected to 2 air conditioning units.
Today's episode is brought to you by Modern Grower. Modern Grower is your source for time and labor-saving farm tools, such as the Paper Pot Transplanter, Quick Click Seeder, and the Jang Direct Seeder. Turn laborsome tasks into free time with tools by Modern Grower.